If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Let me explain. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon, and so many more places. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. And best of all, it's totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hello again and welcome to another episode of Real Talk with RJ. On this episode, we're going to be talking about something that's actually pretty sensitive to a lot of people. We're going to be discussing trusting and loving after trauma. Not so much as trusting and loving, because it sounds easier than it is, because it's actually a very hard journey to take. But we're going to talk about building and finding the courage to learn to trust again or love again after experiencing trauma. Now, I'm not going to sit here and bore you with all the different types of trauma that a person can experience. But suffice it to say, there's lots of different types of trauma out there, and people respond differently to the same types of trauma. An example, let's say you have two identical twins and you slap both of them in the same side of the face with the exact same level of pressure. You will have two very different responses. Why? Because each and every person has a unique set of ingredients and experiences that makes up who that individual is. So one of the big mistakes that a lot of people experience is that when someone goes through trauma and they cry about it, or they feel bad about it, or it's beating them up, someone else who's been through something similar will be like, oh man, grow up, man. You're being weak. I went through that. That was nothing. Well, that person's not you. It's perhaps that person was sheltered a little bit more and didn't get the hard love that you may have received or was exposed to actual life. There are many good meaning parents out there who actually shelter their children from what the world has to offer. In my opinion, the more effective parents are the ones who prepare their children to survive in the world rather than hide them from it and act like it doesn't exist. It's important to teach survival rather than isolation, because people who are isolated will get eaten up alive when real life hits them. Now, I'll talk about trauma that happened to me. From when I was born up until when I was about 9 years old, my biological father had assaulted me in a way that no father should ever. The man that was charged with protecting and loving me and loving my mother had not only hurt me in shameful ways and in quite embarrassing ways, but also did that to other members of my family. It took me a long time to even realize that I held a grudge against this man, but that was a fact. I found that out later on in life, that I still held a grudge against him. And I found out that holding that grudge was just making life more difficult. I had this victim mentality where I was like, man, I can't believe he did that to me. I can't believe he did those things to me. I was a helpless little child. I was mad for a long time, but one day I learned to look at it from a different perspective. One day I said, I'm so sick and tired of being mad at this man. I don't want to have these grudges anymore because it's not making life more beautiful. It's not making life easier. It's not making me happier. It's actually making me quite miserable every time I think about it. It's just like the wound opens up. It never heals. When you hold a grudge, you hurt yourself. It's like you just got a surgery. Let's say you just got a surgery on your left arm and it starts to heal. After a while, you don't even realize the pain, but you're like, you know what? I don't feel the pain anymore, but I'm going to hit myself in the scar and it hurts all over again. Now you got to go get it checked again and get it worked on again. Like, holding a grudge is reliving the incident that caused you so much trauma for so long. So holding a grudge doesn't do anything for you. It does more harm to you than the person who traumatized you. A lot of the times, people who traumatize you are not losing sleep over what they did. And there are also times where these people have, asked for forgiveness and moved on with their lives, but you decide to hold a grudge because you don't think that they are worthy of that. So for my dad, when he did those things to me, I held a grudge but didn't realize I did. So one day I sat there and I prayed for a long time, asking, like, please help me to forgive him. And then when I felt that I could forgive him, that it was sincere, that I wasn't just speaking the words, I asked for a miracle. I asked for permission to see my dad. He died 2 days before September 11th. So this was in my, I was about 15 years old in September 11th. But when I was in my late 20s, I spoke with him. Well, I prayed and I asked for permission to see my dad one more time so that I can forgive him. I can tell him I forgive him to his eyes. Well, unexpectedly and miraculously, I had experienced that very, very special opportunity. I had spoken with my dad. I'm not going to get all mystical and, religious or scriptural about it, but the fact is, I did see my dad. I looked him in the eyes and I told him, Dad, I forgive you. And I felt a massive weight lift off my shoulders. And he just started to tear up and he cried and he's like, thank you so much, son. That means everything to me. And I told him, Daddy, I knew you were sick. I know you were sick and I forgive you and I love you. And when that experience had ended, it was just incredible because I didn't feel a grudge. I didn't feel any hatred or anger toward him. I was free. It was like the proverbial shackles had fallen from my wrists. More so, they'd fallen from my heart. And for a long time, I used to wonder, God, I was mad at God. I was like, why would you let something like this happen to me? You're supposed to protect me. You're supposed to let my dad protect me. There's all these other kids out there who have dads, don't even care about them. They don't love them. These kids don't even respect their dads. Their dads don't respect their kids. I had a dad. I would love to have a father. And I don't even have that. Why would you let all these kids have fathers and be ungrateful for them? And then why would you let these fathers be disrespectful to their kids when you're supposed to love children? What happened? Why would you let them do that? For a long time, that was actually the question on my heart. And then little by little, I actually started to understand because it started to make sense. I started meeting people, one after another, meeting so many people who had been sexually assaulted, who had been violated in various ways, who had been traumatized in ways I had been traumatized. And they had no idea how to get through it. They had no idea how to get healed or find that healing and find that peace. But I had learned how to do it. I had found that peace. And then essentially I became like a Sherpa to them. And what I mean by Sherpa, for those of you who don't understand that word, is whenever you go climb Mount Everest, if you're a mountaineer or a person that likes to climb big mountains and stuff like that, when you go climb that mountain, you will have to get a Sherpa, a person who is your guide, a person who has already climbed the mountain on multiple times, and they know the quickest and most efficient and also the safest ways to get up the mountain. They're your guide. Otherwise, you're more likely to not be able to find the trail. You're not going to know when to base camp, or essentially you're going to die because you're going to take the harder route. So in a big way, I was actually a Sherpa for so many people, and I didn't realize it. So I tell people, if I can go back in time and stop my dad from doing the things that he did to me and to other members of my family, I wouldn't. And the reason why is because there's so much good that came from that. Now, some of you out there might start thinking like, why would you say that? That's pretty messed up. Why would you say that? Well, let's give you another extreme example. All those people who shed their blood for this country, for the freedom that this country has to offer, if they can go back and say, I didn't want to die, I guarantee you the majority of them would say, nah, I would still have died because it was worth it. All the civil rights activists who fought for equal rights, not the crap that you see people saying right now where it's one race versus another, or one race should be superior to another. That's bogus, that's BS, that's stupid. Equal rights are supposed to be equal rights regardless of the color of your skin. They're supposed to be equal. No one's supposed to be above somebody else. And that's something that we keep finding. So if people can go back in time and stop doing something like a sacrifice, like Dr. Martin Luther King, if someone can ask him, would you change not dying for what you did? Or would you go back and stop yourself from dying if it can change, or if it would change how society turned out? He would say no. I'm sure he would say no. He'd be like, no, I would still allow myself to be killed because what I died for was worth it. So there's a lot of people that were able to receive that peace, that healing, and that help because I allowed myself to be used as that tool, as that Sherpa, as that journeyman, if you will. It was all worth it. It wasn't something I enjoyed growing up. No, of course not. But so much good came out of that suffering. And, in reality, the things that have the greatest treasures and the greatest results often require the greatest suffering. So, for the longest time after my dad had done the things that he did, I had suffered trust issues. I don't really get along and trust people easily. I'm very suspicious of your average person because I just don't want to be hurt. I was like that with males and females because I kept allowing myself to trust women and they just kept stabbing me in the back. And I'm not going to try to act like I'm an angel because at one point in my life I was a dog. If I really wish with all my heart that I can go back and heal the hearts that I've broken, because I've broken a lot. It's embarrassing and humiliating to admit that I have destroyed marriages, destroyed families, because I allowed myself to flirt with committed women. I've been in relationships where I was just such a horrible guy. I was never physically abusive and stuff like that. That's never been me. The thing is, you don't have to be physically abusive to be abusive. The things you say can be extraordinarily abusive. And shamefully and embarrassingly, I was one of those guys. When I felt like I was getting verbally attacked and abused, I would say whatever it took to get the upper hand because I didn't want to lose. That was a horrible way of thinking. And it was so shameful that all those parents that trusted me to be with their daughters, I just broke their hearts. I broke families. With all my heart, I regret those things. I hate the fact that that is my past. But I can't change my past. All I can do is learn from my past and heal and look forward to the future. In society, we're taught and we're raised from a young age that when someone says, I'm sorry, you're supposed to say it's okay. As kids, like, say you're sorry, I'm sorry, and you go, it's okay, thank you, and everything's okay after that point. That's not what an apology is. When someone is asking for forgiveness, they're asking you to please excuse the behavior that they had allowed themselves to portray. And when you forgive somebody, you're not saying that what they did was okay. You're not justifying what they did. You're giving them the benefit of a doubt to say, I am not going to hold that against you. I'm not going to let the pain that you caused me control my life. I'm taking that power back. I'm going to stop that event from hurting me. And I'm going to excuse this and try to start as though this never happened. That's what forgiveness does. It does more for you to forgive someone else than to hold a grudge. Once again, that person might not be losing sleep if you forgive them or hold a grudge. But if you forgive them, you're freeing yourself. Think about this for a second. Consider this situation. I'm pretty sure everyone listening has experienced this, where somebody did something to you. Maybe a coworker had snitched on you at work and gotten you in trouble. And every time you see that coworker, your day just goes dark and cloudy. Like, you can be having the greatest day, having a party, just such a great job. Everything is going well. And then all of a sudden you see that person's face. What do? A lot of times you go out of your way to make sure that individual knows you're not paying attention to them, when essentially you are, because you want them to know, I'm not paying attention to you. I don't care about you. So you put this little I don't care face on your face, and you just show like you're not doing anything to me. But in fact, they're doing a lot. They're disrupting your peace. If you can't find peace in yourself, then you're doing something wrong. And when I say yourself, I'm including, if you have religious beliefs within, that faith within, like the potential within you. You should be at peace with who you are. If you're not, you're doing something wrong. External factors should not be able to manipulate your peace. We see this time and time again in people in Africa and other very impoverished countries where they're still smiling and laughing and they're still happy even though they're poor. Because finances don't bring happiness. They may affect conditions of happiness, but that's not what makes a person happy. Being poor or rich doesn't make a person happy. It might make life easier, but happiness comes from within. It's magnified by external sources and connections and networking, etc. So I went on that segue in a way to illustrate that I had to take power back from what my dad did to me. I had to remove that pain so that I can relate to other people and help them heal. I cannot truthfully say when somebody else was molested or assaulted, I can't look at them and say, I know how you feel, because I don't. I know what it feels like, but I don't know how that person feels. Because I haven't suffered through their eyes. I've only suffered through mine. But because we had something in common, that we understood a similar problem, we were able to relate, they were able to trust me, and I was able to be that vessel to help them heal and to find that peace and take back that power. So when I took back that power from what my dad did, I was free. I had forgiven him and I was at peace. But now I faced a new enemy. I faced someone I had held a grudge against for a very long time. I faced someone I did not think deserved mercy. Someone who deserved to go to hell for the stuff he's done. That person was me. I held a grudge against myself. I held that grudge because I hated who I was. I hated who I had allowed myself to become. I didn't blame my father for who I became because my choices were my own, based off of pride, weakness, and stupidity. But I needed to forgive myself. I needed to forgive myself because the person I once was needed mercy, did not deserve it. None of us deserve mercy. None of us deserve to be forgiven when we hurt other people. But we all need it. Mercy is not something that we earn. It's not something that we are deserving of. It's something that we absolutely need. So I beg for the strength to forgive myself. Not to justify or be like, what I did was okay, because it wasn't. But I forgave myself because I could not move forward and reach my greatest potential if I was holding a grudge against this individual. I had to bury that individual by forgiving him and moving away from him. And by the grace of God, I was able to do it. I had grown. I had improved. I became faithful where I didn't want to be with other women when I was in a committed relationship. Because I respected myself. I didn't want to put any woman through the pain that was caused to me by other women when they broke my heart. So when I became an honorable man, when I had forgiven myself and moved forward, what I had to do was I had to start making those actions align with the goal of who I wanted to become. And so that was a reality. And that became my reality. So I started meeting women who, on face value, were very good women, honorable, good, upstanding people. And then one after another, they were breaking my heart, lying to me, being conniving, and just being really horrible. And each time I would ask God, why do you keep bringing these women into my life? Why would you keep doing this to me? I'm a good man. Why do you keep bringing this garbage that just keeps hurting me? And it's just kind of started to help me understand something. You did this to other people. You need to make sure it's important that you understand what it feels like, what you put other people through, so that you never allow yourself to fall back to that. And I was like, you know what? It was worth it. It was hard for me to trust the next person after my heart got broken, but I knew I needed to. I needed to allow another person a chance, and I needed to make sure I didn't hold a grudge against one person and bring it into this relationship. I had to give each person a fair shake, a fair chance. I had to make sure that if something appeared to be a flag with one individual, I wasn't thinking and linking it to a flag of another individual. Because remember, as I said before, flags need details. Flags need understanding. You have to have a very strong understanding and all the details connected to these flags. Is this a real flag, or does it look like a flag because it was a flag with someone else? So context is really important when you start talking about flags. So again, one after another, these people just kept breaking my heart, kept betraying me, kept lying to me. And I was just like, man, this really sucks. But I have to keep going. Once I felt healed enough and stable enough to move on and meet somebody else, in due time, I met this incredible woman who just became my best friend. I told her all about my past and the guy I once was. And, her and I had been getting to know each other and work for a long time. And we just grew really close. And I'm just really grateful that this woman gave me an opportunity to see who I am today and not focus on who I once was. But this woman was incredible. She is incredible. And I decided that on my birthday, I invited her whole family over. I had my mom and one of my brothers over, and nobody knew except for one of my dear friends, because I asked him to be the cameraman. For my birthday, what I gave myself was a fiance. I had asked my girlfriend at the time to dance with me in front of everybody as my birthday present, and she's a little shy when it comes to things like that, and she decided to go ahead and do it. She never listened to the lyrics of the song, which were about proposing. I knew she wouldn't, because she's busy. She's got a lot of things going on. And I've sent this song to her on multiple occasions. And, on my birthday, I decided to go ahead and dance. And then right after that, I took a knee and I asked her to marry me. And she just started crying. She was so happy. And I knew when I gave her that ring, I was making the best choice I'd ever made in a companion. I'm so blessed to have her in my life. She is my equal, she's my partner, and she is the blessing that I had received after allowing myself to trust, after each time I was betrayed, after allowing myself to love, after each time I felt hated, when all I did was good to some of these people in the past. So I said all those things to say that it's important to remember that if you don't allow yourself to trust or love again, you're never going to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And if you stay in the dark, you lose your sight. If you stay in the dark, you start to get sick. You got to come out of that darkness. You got to get free of that fear of being hurt again. You may get hurt one more time. You may get hurt 100 times. But I promise you, if you give each person a fair chance and get to know them for the right reasons, and don't get persuaded or distracted by good looks, good bedroom techniques, or sex talk or whatever, just focus on the character of this person. If you're willing to do that, you will see real flags way earlier than you normally would if you had not. And you will end up finding the greatest person you will ever meet, who will become your greatest friend. Don't hold grudges, because grudges will age you faster than you would smoking cigarettes or any other drug that will age you. Don't hold grudges because they make your quality of life worse. I know, because I've done it for so long. I forgave every person that hurt me, including myself. To forgive doesn't say what the person did is okay. To forgive is to show mercy that is undeserved but highly needed. It's more of a blessing for you to forgive than for the person being forgiven. Don't allow fear to ruin your life. Fear is a choice. I heard that on a Will Smith movie once. He said, fear is a choice. And that's absolutely true. Because when you get down and you start dissecting what it is you're afraid of, you start seeing the details of like, you know what, that's not that big of a deal. What's the worst case scenario of you meeting somebody and finding out that they're not the right one for you? Your heart gets broken. Yeah, it sucks. You know, believe me, I felt that way where I just didn't want to live. I was mad. But for all those of you out there who have contemplated taking your life because somebody hurt you, don't do that. You are so important. You are worth more than you can ever imagine. Don't ever hurt yourself for somebody who does not deserve you. You are special. You are carefully crafted, and you are priceless. You are more precious than any painting or work of art out there, because you were created with love. You might not think you were, but I promise you, you were. Remember, fighting is not always easy. It's a fight for a reason. Warriors get knocked down. I'm a veteran. I've been to Iraq. I've been to Iraq with the United States Marine Corps. I help package the personal effects, the personal property of fallen soldiers and Marines, seamen from the Navy, and even some airmen. That was not easy, but it had to be done. Warriors get tired. If any warrior tells you he's not tired, he doesn't get tired, he's lying to you or she's lying to you. Fights are worth it in the end if you fight for the right reasons. So just remember those things. Remember to not let fear dictate your future. Remember to forgive those who have hurt you, not because they deserve it, but because they need it, and you need it more. It doesn't mean that when you forgive somebody that you have to let them back into your life and to do the same things that hurt you the same way. That has nothing to do with forgiveness. That's not it at all. Forgiveness focuses specifically on removing the power and the impact on your life that it had from that incident, so you're not reliving it anymore. Because you can go ahead and try to ignore that pain, but it will come up. Things will remind you of that, and it will reignite you. But if you truly forgive somebody, the pain leaves and it doesn't come back because you took that power back. Thank you so much for spending this time with me on Real Talk with RJ.